The amount of hate and vitriol you can have for another human being.
They tried to poison Auburn's water supply, man.
Y'all think you're the only ones who've had Thanksgiving ruined.
There are acquaintances and friends who really would kill each other over this particular thing.
It's a lot different than waking up in your own household and being feared for your safety.
That hatred knows no bounds.
What is up, everybody? Thank you guys for joining us again today on another edition of Crain & Company and making Crain & Company a daily watch or listen. Remember, without you, there is no us. And we have brought back one of our favorites outside of, obviously, us three here. My buddy David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback, brother Western State, Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crain, and the Josh Pate College Football Show's own Josh Pate.
He's back, baby.
What's up? He's back, baby. He's back. What's up, buddy?
Nice tan.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean,
Jacked and tan.
Great
Great
time
way to go
leave
through life.
the country. You know, I left the country for the first time. This was it. The
Really?
furthest I've gone is the Okefenokee Swamp and maybe the Chattahoochee River. That had been my
The
boundary.
Okefenokee Swamp. Is that right next to the swirly twirly gumdrop forest?
No,
It's next
that's
to the Quick Trip in South
Yeah.
Georgia.
That's where I'm
okay.
from.
Sorry,
I'm
guys.
from the Okefenokee
Sorry, I
Swamp.
haven't been to Pinocchio Falls or whatever y'all talking
Did
about.
they have a Buc-ee's where you went?
I don't even know what that word means. No, never heard of it.
Dead to it. All right, Josh, we've had this long-standing debate that'll go into the, until the meteor hits it or the aliens get tired of watching this reality TV show and blow the planet up, about the best rivalry in college football. Okay, obviously, Cohn played at Michigan, so he thinks it's Michigan and Ohio State, and I get it.
In Ohio.
Or excuse me,
Midwest.
Ohio, but I call them Ohio State. From Lee County, Alabama, we both are. So I think it's the Iron Bowl. It's Auburn, Alabama. So what I want to do is I want to give you my argument and our arguments. We can go. And then Cohn can give you his argument. And then if you feel there's a certain number one, obviously we want you to tell us. But if you want to play it kind of neutral here, you tell us who you think has the better argument. So to me, college football rivalries, there's like three huge pillars or like the three main things. Obviously, it's tradition. Right? How long you've been playing, how far this goes back. There's relevance, right? Championship relevance, like how much that game matters, especially at the end of the year to put yourself in a position to win a championship. And then three is hate, right? Because there's different levels of hate, all right? There's different shades, different colors, it doesn't matter. But to me, those are the three things that define are what I'm going to make my argument about. So one is tradition. Obviously, Auburn, Alabama goes back a long way. Now, you had that hiatus, right? Then you had it, being played at Legion Field, which is basically a home game for Bama. Pat Dye comes in, changes that. Now it's played home and home to even it out. You have championship relevance. Now, right now, Auburn hasn't held up their end of the bargain. All right, Alabama has. But, we go back a decade ago, Auburn and Alabama were kind of going back and forth. I mean, you look at 08, 09, 2010, there's been others, and it will be that way again because football's cyclical. So I think you have an argument there. But then third is hate. And the way I put it is like this, Josh. If I go out, because Michigan and Ohio State are neighbors, right? They're neighbors, neighboring states. If I go out and I have a fight with my neighbor, all right, and it's a knockdown, drag out over whatever, at the end of the day, he gets to go back in his house and I get to go back in my house and we're separate. With Auburn and Alabama, you get in a fight out in the street or you get in a fight in the front yard, not only do you have to go in the same house, you got bunk beds in the same room, man. Like you can't escape each other. So to me, I think that's what separates the Iron Bowl, not by an oceans wide, there's not a huge gap, from Michigan and Ohio State. You're together in it. Right? You check off all the boxes, but you literally are like the guys from Step Brothers. You have bunk beds, and there's so much room for activities. So that's my argument and why I think the Iron Bowl is the greatest rivalry in college football.
I mean, you've hit on most of the points. I mean, I've seen grandmothers fight over this game.
Yeah. They tried to poison Auburn's water supply, man.
It's different. It's different to me when you have to wake up and fight your own family members and bragging rights in your own state. And I get it, Michigan, Ohio State longer. When it comes to a rivalry, I believe, 6 years? Y'all started in 1893 or something like that.
God, that was a great team.
And it's tough for me because I'm a huge Army-Navy guy. I think that game, having its own weekend, is just absolutely phenomenal. But it's a lot different than waking up in your own household and being feared for your safety because your team won the Iron Bowl. It's different with Alabama and Ohio State. You can go fight your neighbor, and yeah, that's different. But to me, like, imagine me and you.
Yeah.
Me and you. Like, a lot of people don't realize this. My dad was an Alabama fan until Auburn offered him. All right, so we could have been on the other side of the tracks really easy. So to me, I agree with all your points.
Thank you.
It's just different. It's different when you wake up and it's your own family member that you have to fight. I've seen it ruin Thanksgiving.
Oh, God.
Ruin
God.
Thanksgiving. Turkey, who cares? The mashed potato was great. The gravy was great. I don't care. But the brothers and the dads are outside fighting because they think Auburn or Alabama is going to win the Iron Bowl.
Yeah. We rest our case.
Okay. So Cone, I assume you're going to try and mount a defense here, or maybe go on.
Well, do I even need to? I mean, do you want to speak here? Do you want to follow up to that? Do I even need to make a case here?
You got an uphill battle because they grew up in Lee County. I grew up in Muskogee, Harris County, which is right across the river. So I could have thrown a stone and hit their house. I know what they're talking about. I've been at Thanksgiving with family members from both sides. I don't know what year it would have been. When I was little, this would have been 90s. Did they play the Iron Bowl on a Thanksgiving before? Did they ever do that?
I don't believe so. On Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah, so it's either that or a Friday. I've got memories in my head of watching my two family members. They only would have been at Meemaw's house for Thanksgiving, and the Iron Bowl's on. And it may have been the day after.
It was 1992, the last time the Iron Bowl was played on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
That's it.
92.
92.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I remember that. So to give you an idea of how serious that is, I just had to get stats and info over here to look that up. But yeah, so I remember that. And then also, you're going to be able to make this argument for Ohio State, Michigan too. I remember when I was a kid, the almost not fantasy, because that takes us down a TV 14 related road, but the image in your mind that you get of those two uniforms being on the field, and that you only get to see it that one time of year, and symbolically what it meant. It just meant pure hatred, and knowing that there are acquaintances and friends who really would kill each other on this particular day over this particular thing. I was 7 years old, and I was picking up on that and realizing that. Now, you can make that argument about Ohio State, Michigan, so I'm doing Cone's work for him here. But I do think that the proximity, that's the unique factor. So that's what you have to overcome. If you're going to make the argument for Ohio State, Michigan, you got to overcome the proximity factor, because that's unique unto any other rivalry of significance in college football.
Well, no problem at all. I love hearing that. I find it funny that y'all think you're the only ones who've had Thanksgiving ruined. Okay, because my mother is from Columbus, Ohio. I haven't heard from her side of the family in years, and I didn't enjoy a Thanksgiving meal from 2006 until just recently in 2021. No Thanksgiving food tasted good to me because that's how important that game was.
Big thanks to our friends over at Bearskin for sponsoring today's show. They sent us their heavy storm rain jacket and hoodie combo. And after testing it out in the rain earlier, we can confidently say this is the best 3-in-1 rain jacket that we've ever owned. It folds down into its own stash pocket as well. It takes up almost no space in your backpack or pocket, and it's a total game changer in heavy or light rain. And summer's coming, fellas. This thing is fully waterproof. That's because it's got fully taped seams, silicone sealed zips, adjustable cuffs, and the hood is designed to not allow any water near that beautiful face of yours. And it's not just any old jacket. It's also got 5 waterproof pockets, so all your gear stays dry whether you're hiking, fishing, biking, or getting caught in a storm heading over to the tailgate for the big game. This is that one crucial rain jacket that you need. And here's the best part. It actually zips into the Bearskin hoodie, turning both into a 3-in-1 all-weather system. It's basically a transformer. So your fleece stays warm and dry underneath, and you stay comfortable and dry on the outside. With Bearskin, you're covered.
You're gonna be rocking.
Literally.
You're going to Ireland.
Yeah, I'm gonna be stunting like my daddy.
What a great time to get a rain
I think it's perfect timing. So when you order your Bearskin rain jacket, you'll get fast delivery and free shipping from within the U.S. To get yours for 60% off. That's right, over half off. Just text Crain, that's C-R-A-I-N, to 36912. Even if you're busy right now, text C-R-A-I-N to 36912, and they'll send you the link so you can lock in for your discount for later. So if you go outdoors, rain or shine, just text our last name, Crain, C-R-A-I-N, to 36912 and get 60% off the best rain jacket in the market, and it's not even close.
But the reason, and make no mistake, I'm just going to keep it real with you, son, real quick. The reason that Michigan-Ohio is the greatest rivalry in college football is because it's the rivalry I was affiliated with.
There you go.
Let's just be honest.
Same here.
If I had gotten recruited to play quarterback at Alabama, we might all be on the same side here. But a few things. I want to take you back. Okay, I want to take you back to the week that Jake Crain and I first met. Okay, it was February of 2021. What a glorious week. I'm so glad to have met you.
They'll write about it.
Look how far we've come now. And we had this debate in that wintertime leading up to that college football season. And what Jake said, the reason that the Iron Bowl was the greatest rivalry at that time, now remember, Michigan was on quite a losing streak. And what he said was, look, the Buckeyes are starting to run away with this rivalry. And it really is getting kind of ugly here. One win in 13 tries, 14 seasons, something like that. Whereas on the other side, Auburn, despite not having as good of a team as Alabama may have or as good of a roster in any of these years except for the 2010 Cam Newton year, somehow finds a way every other year to beat Alabama, right? Kick six. You can find all these examples.
Yep.
And what I told Jake at that time was, well, no one decade can determine the fate of rivalries that are 130 years old, right? Yep. So let's just be very careful to put all of this in historical context. But I'm starting to agree with you. I do think you're making a good point. The onus is on Michigan. It has to be right now. Jim Harbaugh has never beaten the Buckeyes since he's been the head coach. He can't beat Urban Meyer. It's either now or never, because if you don't beat the Buckeyes, you can't make the Big Ten championship game. That's when it was still East and West. If you don't make the Big Ten championship game, you can't win it, and you can't make the college football playoff. And if you don't make the college football playoff, you can't win the national championship. And what happened that year? Jim Harbaugh beats them for the first time. He's done it 4 years since then, even with a new coach in Sharon Moore now. And what happened when he finally beat them? He did win the Big Ten championship game. He did make the college football playoff. And guess what? They did win the national championship. In fact, the last two national champions in our sport are these rivals, much like Auburn and Alabama in 9, 10, 11, and 12. When those teams rattled off 4 in a row, now look at what we're dealing with. Michigan and Ohio, back-to-back national champions. And on the other side of this argument with the rivalry, I'm looking at Auburn, who historically I have considered to be the silver to Alabama's gold. Now it's even more so because they haven't been able to beat Alabama. Even 4th and 31, we're throwing grave digger plays, and they just
told you never bring that up again.
Okay, so that's by Jake's own standard when we first met before Michigan reeled off 4 wins in a row. But I will say one quick point on the proximity of this rivalry and being in-state here. Michigan, Ohio, the origins of this rivalry are from an actual battle, from an actual war that involved Toledo, which has always been kind of, Toledo's in Ohio, but 50% of the fans are Michigan fans, 50% are Ohio fans. But what I've said to Jake historically and to Blaine as well is that at the end of the day, I get what it's like being rivals in the same state. And I grew up in North Carolina, and North Carolina Duke in the same state, great college basketball rivalry. But at the end of the day, no matter how much you hate each other, you still are brothers. To his analogy about being brothers in the house, you may hate that, but there are things that are bigger if you're Alabamians in the same state. The amount of hate and vitriol you can have for another human being when you draw a line in between the two of you and one says, no, we're in the state of Michigan, and the other, we're in the state of Ohio, that hatred knows no bounds. And even you can ask Bo Schembechler or Woody Hayes. Woody Hayes won't even stop the bus in the state of Michigan to fill up a tank of gas because he doesn't want to give them one more penny. They're pushing the bus across state lines to fill up with gas in Ohio. Those are some reasons that I do think Michigan-Ohio has the greatest rivalry of all time. Unless you want to try and pull a rabbit out of the hat here and go Army-Navy, which I don't think anyone would hate you for, Josh.
Yeah, nobody can be pissed about that. We've all been there, endlessly scrolling through fitness influencers selling complicated routines while doing silly dances that make no sense. They promise the world, but it delivers very little. Well, the truth is, most of these tips and tricks are just overcomplicating what should be simple. And that's where Fitbod comes in. Combining the workout planning and tracking, you actually need to stay consistent and make your real progress on your summer body. What makes Fitbod special is how it builds workouts around your specific situation. Now, I'm sure all of us want to get in shape for swimsuit season and beach season. We all know that's true. And Fitbod's app crafts routines based on your unique fitness journey, available equipment, and even factors in your recovery time between sessions to make that possible. And their smart technology ensures each workout hits the sweet spot, challenging enough to drive results, without pushing you to burnout. Plus, they got over 1,000 demonstration videos, so you'll never wonder if you're doing an exercise correctly. It's like having a trainer who really knows you, pushing you just enough to make progress without burning out. Heck, we know. They helped us get in shape for Lady Ballers, and you can tell the difference. That's why Fat Jake's never coming back. So get in shape this summer with Fitbod. Join Fitbod today to get your personalized workout plan. Get 25% off your subscription or try the app free for 7 days at fitbod.me/booster. That's fitbod.me/booster.
So, look, I mean, don't throw war analogies at me, because I'll throw some pseudo history and tell you the Battle of Horseshoe Bend stemmed from Auburn, Alabama, and not even blink. Okay, I will just reconstruct.
It's not an analogy, though. It's an actual battle.
Well, to talk about drawing a line, I don't know. They say the worst war we've ever been in was the Civil War. I mean, listen, I understand, like going over to Europe to have to save them, like we're probably gonna have to do again in
the Toledo
15 years.
War, the Toledo War, also known as the Michigan-Ohio War, and they didn't add state.
They didn't add state there.
Michigan-Ohio War, 1835 to 1836. That's the origins we're dealing with.
I love the
here.
30s.
All right, so I got to swerve you. I'm with Cone. I actually think he's right.
Really?
I do believe he made the right point. Okay, so let's pretend I grew up in Seattle, so I don't know anything really about either of these cultures or these rivalries. I just am a college football fan.
And you've got a nose ring.
I think in 29, 10, 11, 12, that 13, 14, that period, your answer here is the Iron Bowl. Because what was happening there was not just relegated to the impact it has on those two fan bases. It was also the premier matchup in determining how the national championship picture was going to play out. And I was around that. And I've also been blessed enough to be at like every one of these Ohio State, Michigan games except for last year. So in this entire string, this recent string, I've been around that. So I went from growing up in the South, hearing people talk about Ohio State, Michigan, to being a part of it. And what I've observed is everything I know the Iron Bowl has, it has as well. The only cherry on top, if this matters to you, is Ohio State, Michigan are two national premier brands. Alabama's a national premier brand and Auburn's a more regional brand. So I've always thought that Auburn had to be, bringing something extra to the table to make the entire nation care about it. Now, if you live in Talladega, Alabama, that doesn't matter. But if we're speaking about the best rivalry in totality, I think you do have to factor that in. And the other part is, I'm telling you, man, now that Michigan's done what they've done, it's the thickness in the air at those games is unbelievable. I don't know how to describe it, because the only thing you can do to experience it is you got to go to the game. You got to be there in person. You got to feel that, because I used to think they were manufacturing that. I used to think if I watched ESPN and it's crawling with Michigan and Ohio State and Big Ten grads at ESPN, I was thinking they're being a little performative with this. Kind of like they did with the Yankees Red Sox back in the day when they forced it down my throat. I thought they were being a little performative with it. Maybe they work back in the day, but it's not performative now. Just pure abject hatred. It also takes on that one game season sort of feel. Like last year, there's no excuse. There's like no other explanation for how that game goes other than anything happens in that particular rivalry game. So anyway, we're splitting hairs, but ever so slightly. I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth in this combination, but I am siding with David Cone.
How did Auburn not do enough? Like, we had to beat Nick Saban. We beat him more than anybody.
Well,
we beat him more than anybody.
I can understand if the thing that's going to separate it, and again, I think it's a small separation. I don't think either one of us is saying there's a huge gap in between the two. It's that who is more championship relevant right now? Now, I know Michigan last year wasn't championship relevant that year, but you look the last 3 to 4 years, they have been. All right, so I get that. Auburn, make no mistake. The reason I said that to you, I'm not going to be, hypocritical. Auburn hasn't held up their end of the bargain.
Like Michigan didn't when you said it. For a while,
like Michigan didn't.
Yeah.
And that's on Auburn. But I do think, where I do disagree with one point, Josh, that you made was that they're two big brands, so it's more of a national rivalry. I think the Auburn being a more regional brand with Alabama being a huge brand, that underdog type of story makes it better. That's why David and Goliath gets everybody so hype all the time. If Goliath was fighting Goliath, you'd have loved to have gone to that fight. It'd have been great to watch, but it wouldn't pop the same as David hitting him with a slingshot. And that's what Auburn had to do with Saban. Saban was Goliath. We had to hit him with a slingshot, and we did, all right, on the kick six. That was the one. That's why they'll talk about Bama could win 8 games in a row against Auburn and blow them out every time. But people will still talk about the kick 6 more because of how crazy that was and that one time, like boy said on Little Giants. But I get it. I'm not going to be hypocritical. And Cone makes a really good argument. But Josh, I didn't realize you played baseball for Harris County. I saw a picture you played. What year did you play at Harris County?
Oh, that would have been 04, I think, the picture you saw.
Okay. When did you graduate high school?
No back gloves.
04?
No, that would have been 03. So 04 is when I graduated.
Okay, so we played at Harris County, all right, my junior year of high school, so 07. And this is how you'll know it's true. We had no idea who Harris County was until we're on the bus ride over there from Opelika, Alabama. We look them up, and they're like number 3 in the country on ESPN in baseball. We're like, what? They got one guy projected to go like 8th overall that had a mohawk that's pumping like 96. So we show up there, so we're like, all right, we drive through basically this column of trees forever to get there. And while we're playing the game, and the field had potholes all over it, and if you hit a home run, you couldn't go get the ball because there was a farm behind it. They wouldn't let you get it. And Josh, while we're playing, they're doing cow patty bingo on the football field for a fundraiser.
That is correct.
So when I didn't realize you went there, and we went and played them, and our junior year, they beat us upside down. Now, we beat them when they came to Opelika, but the next year. But that was just funny. I was trying to think, did I play against Josh? I was like, do I remember? But you're a little bit older than me, but that was just funny seeing that. I didn't realize that.
That 07 crew, they had a squad.
Dude, bro.
We would have been talking about Caleb Brewer, drafted by the Braves. That's the kid you're talking about.
God, dude.
Former Catawba Mudcat from the Little League days. Catawba was a pipeline to Harris County, which became a pipeline to Major League Baseball. So, Catawba to MLB. That's really what I want to hammer home here.
We were shocked.
Look, first of all, saw the video. The stance looked great. No back gloves, Josh.
Yeah.
You're a real one now.
Yeah.
That's
He's like Euclid.
We got to get you in
like
the company
Euclid.
softball game. But Josh, I do have one more question here. When we're talking about these historic college football rivalries, the game, the Iron Bowl, even Red River, are these rivalries going to become diminished in the current state of college football? We saw the Buckeyes lose to Michigan a year ago, still win the national championship. You're going to see scenarios where these teams play the last week of the season, then maybe have an immediate rematch in the conference championship. Expanded college football playoff, you could have a couple rematches. Whereas, as we talked about, what made these rivalries so cool is that you're only playing once a year, unlike college basketball, and certainly unlike Yankees, Red Sox, and other sports. What do you think about that?
I think there's merit to what you're saying. I really am bothered by the concept that you could play that game 2 times in 7 days.
Yeah.
It just is. It makes no sense to anybody, and it hasn't happened yet. But it's right there. I mean, the possibility is there every year. And what I wonder, and what I hope, let me rephrase, what I hope is there's enough collective pride taken in those games by the organizations and the programs and the fan bases that you just sort of self-police that from becoming a risk. You know, an outsider could look and say, well, if Ohio State knows they've got a trip to Indianapolis locked up, do they rest starters against Michigan and all that? Well, if you know that rivalry, you know nobody of sane mind is going to allow that to happen in that rivalry. However, it should be taken off the table as a possibility. So, that does bother me a little bit. Fingers crossed we don't have to worry about it, though.
I agree.
God, I hope we don't. Well, Josh, again, thanks so much for your time, brother. Tell everybody where they can find you if they don't already know. And if you're watching this show and don't know who this guy is, then congratulations on landing on planet Earth. I think you found a good one. We've got water and oxygen.
I appreciate it, sir. Hey, I haven't even know where to find myself lately, but you can, what is it? Josh Pate's College Football Show. Search that wherever, and if you don't find something, that's our fault. That's not your fault.
Well, Josh, thanks so much, buddy. Congrats again on the marriage, and we'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right. Appreciate you guys joining us. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Follow for more great content. Remember, without you, there is no us. And like the chances of me not thinking the Iron Bowl's the best rivalry till the day I die and longer, we're going
Vindication.
Gone. See ya.